What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show. As always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. Let me just get that turned off. There we go. And this is the home of epic conversations, and the Dr. Vibe Show is the place. I'm the host, etc., all that sort of stuff. We're looking forward to another epic conversation. And I'm also the 2018 recipient of the Innovation Award from the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. This is going to be another epic conversation because this young lady, I had the opportunity of having her on the Dr. Vibe Show platform back on October 7th, 2013.
Wow.
Yes, that's October 7th, 20. And at that time, she was living in a different city.
Yeah. A lot of things were different in 2013 for me. Wow.
Yes.
Crazy to think about.
Yes. And I can honestly say I knew her when, but I'm glad I still know her. And before we go any further, I just want to shout out to Dre, Patricia, Tony, and Angela. Yes, where we all learned where we learned all about internet radio. Well, there you go.
Yep.
There we go. What can I say? Well, she'll share her journey. It's Jaymie Bowles. I like to call her AKA Miss CEO of WJMS Radiio, based out of NYC. I'm blessed enough to be able to share some of my content on that platform. Also, I introduced Jaymie and Dr. Tachi to each other. So Tachi live streams her content from Mediascope on Wednesday evening. Something you need to check. And we're going to take a little journey tonight and listen to Jaymie and how she's overcoming. I knew that from the first day I met her back in October 2013, and she has a great story to share. The first little bit, folks, I'll have the room locked for a little bit, but I will open it up because I know people want to come on and ask questions, encourage, etc. So, Miss CEO, what is going on tonight?
Ah, man. Well, for starters, this is my 2-month mark for having this catheter in. So actually, I'm a little sad today, but sad, but not at the same time. I'm sad because the doctor said I would only have this catheter in for 2 months. Today's a 2-month mark, and I still have a catheter in. So I'm like, but I'm happy because could be worse. But the numbers are coming down and stuff like that. But I'll get into what all that means later on down the line. Right now, I'm okay. I am fine. I'm breathing, and I'm above ground and breathing, as you like to say.
I was in a conversation this afternoon with a mutual acquaintance of ours, Juice Man Jonathan Shaw, and he sent his loves and prayers to you. And now he's really pushing me to come to NYC now.
Yeah, man, it's time. It's time to meet you in person. No more of this digital thing. We gotta get this together.
So, Miss Jams, share a little bit about yourself for those who don't know about you. Give a little background.
So, like Dr. Vibe just said, I am Jaymie Bowles. I'm the owner of WJMS Radiio, Radio Reimagined. You can see it behind me here. I started WJMS back in 2015. So Dr. Vibe met me before WJMS was even a thing. That's how far back him and I go. It's crazy to think about that. He met me before I moved to New York. He's met me before a lot of things. So he's been around for a long time. So it's time to stop catfishing now. Starting to think some things. No, but to be honest, I am just a young woman trying to, keep my platform alive for those folks that need it and for those folks that need the ability to talk about what they're doing for those around them and in their community. And a lot of times media, we don't get that perspective because the media focuses on negative things all the time. And you don't get to see the positive things that are happening sometimes right in your backyard. So WJMS is the platform for people to come on and talk about those things. It's the platform for positivity, youth empowerment, and, positive community affairs. So that's what I do. I just hopefully create opportunities for people to come on and talk about what they're doing so that we can further the knowledge, we can broaden the umbrella, and we can, network and get folks the resources that they need to keep making a difference around their community.
Excellent. Where'd you grow up?
Oh, you want the whole
Oh,
story?
we
Okay.
you know, well, there's
You want the full damn story.
there's a lot of people here that don't know you, so it's the first time they're meeting you.
Okay,
So I think it's best that
fair
they get a
enough.
little bit of the whole story.
Fair enough. Okay, so I am 32 years old, born and raised in Brockton, Massachusetts. Graduated from Arcadia University down in Glenside, Pennsylvania in 2008. I stayed in Pennsylvania for about 10 years. And while I was in college, I discovered, or I guess rediscovered, if you will, this passion and this love for music and radio that I didn't know sort of existed until I accidentally, or not accidentally, but just kind of an impromptu, I joined the Arcadia Radio Club, and I just realized that something's just kind of clicked in my head, and it made me realize that this was something that I truly love to do and that I wanted to do more often, potentially for the rest of my life. It was one of those things where I was naturally good at it. I enjoyed doing it. I never looked at it as work. And I was just like, you know what, this might be my thing. And so I really kind of pursued that, and I went after it full speed ahead. And yeah, I was the host of Word Up on 900 AM WURD way back when. I think that might be when I first met Dr. Vibe, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken, around those
it
times
is.
when I
It
was
is.
hosting that
That's
show.
you were a broadcaster on Word in Philadelphia back at that time. Yeah.
Yep. So I met him at that time. But yeah, I mean, Word was my internship at the time. And I went into Word with this understanding that I wanted to have my own show because that's always something that I wanted to do. So as one of the older interns in the room when I went there, they kind of put us around the table and asked us what we wanted to do and so on and so forth. And I told them, I said, you guys are the only all Black talk radio station in Pennsylvania. You have a very mature listening base. I was like, but you're not reaching that younger demographic. And I was like, and I'd like to be that person to do that for you. And within 2 months from then, I had my own show doing just that. So Word Up was born. I did that for about a year and a half or so before I got the opportunity to move up here to New York. And yeah, I moved up to New York, and I was kind of floating for a little while trying to figure out what I was going to do radio wise. And an old colleague of mine, Eric, reached out and asked me if I'd be interested in hosting a show on his platform called phillyhotradio.com. And I was like, yeah, but I was like, I'm really not trying to drive back and forth to Philly to have a radio show every weekend. That's a long drive from New York, and that George Washington Bridge toll is no joke. So he's like, no, you would broadcast remotely from where you are, and you'd be live on our server. And I said, oh, okay, that's interesting. And that kind of sparked this ability for me to host live to Philadelphia from New York, and then also expand from there because he offered me the opportunity to have my own radio station. And at the time, I didn't even want a radio station at the time, which I tell people that and they laugh, or I laugh because they're like, really? And I'm like, this was never my plan. My plan was to be on Sirius XM. I just wanted a show on Sirius. I wanted to be like Howard Stern and just have my channel and do my thing. And that was it. And it didn't occur to me that owning a radio station would be the next legitimate or, logistical step for me until he said, hey, would you be interested in having your own station? And it was just like, oh, yeah, actually, that does make sense. And from there, the rest is kind of history. I went on this path to start the business and get WJMS up and running. And it has been a whirlwind roller coaster ride ever since. And I've met some awesome people like you, Dr. Vibe, and half of the folks that are watching right now. And I'm grateful for the connections that it's given me thus far. It's been great.
Wonderful. Where did the love of music come from? I know, but
I have a very well-rounded music taste from the people in my life. So my mom and my dad, my brother, my sister, my best friend. My dad was Prince and Michael Jackson. My mom was Anita Baker and, oldies like that. My sister was more Mary J. Blige. My brother was the gangster rap. And then I had a best friend who was white at the time, not at the time, but she was white.
Yeah,
and
well, that's the change all the
time. And her family was into all the rest of it. She, the Elton John and everything else. So I really grew up listening to just about everything. And I always had a love for music. Even when I was a kid, I used to make little mixtapes off the radio. I'm dating myself a little bit. But I used to make little mixtapes off the radio.
Hold on, you're dating yourself and you're 32 years old. Okay, whatever.
You can go on the street right now and ask somebody what a cassette tape is, and people would be like, I don't know what that is. It's old, dead technology, unfortunately. but yeah, I used to make the mixtapes off the radio with all my favorite songs, and never really realized that that could be a thing for me until I joined the Arcadia Radio Club and until I got the opportunities that I got. And then it just kind of was like, duh, like, and yeah, that's basically where my love for music has come from. It's always been a form of medicine for me. Like music has always been the thing that I can go to, you know, vent about what I'm going through, to, you know, listen to music to make me feel better, to make me feel happy, to when I'm feeling sad, if I'm feeling angry, if I need a song that just is exactly what I'm thinking about, I can find it. So it's music is a form of medicine for me, for sure.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I've had the pleasure in the past to speak to both your dad and your mother, and I know your dad is a big person into music.
Yes, he is. Yeah, my dad actually was a radio personality himself. I found out um, after I, when did I find out? I found out when I started doing the Arcadia Radio Club. He was like, I used to do that too. He's like, I used to be a radio personality. He was the star child.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so he's got a love for radio broadcasting as well, and he's always on my side and in my corner. Kind of, he's like my unofficial almost business partner, because I can run ideas past him. I can run theories, thoughts, concepts, themes, all kinds of different things past him. And he's always got a good idea. He's got a friendly ear, and he's got an understanding, sort of just knowledge of all the things radio as well, because he's gone through it himself. He doesn't do it anymore, but I'm slowly inching my way into talking him into a politics podcast. So
Uh-oh.
fingers,
Here
fingers
we
crossed
go.
I can get him on for that, because that'd be great.
Good stuff. When you decided that you wanted to start your online station, who was the first person you told?
My mom.
What,
I remember the day.
and what you
Yeah,
say?
I remember the day. I was at NYU. I was at work, and I got this random phone call from Eric just out of the blue in the middle of my workday. And I remember exactly where I was. I was on 10th and Broadway, because I was on my way to Brittany Hall. And I got the phone call from him, and he's like, hey, we've had a lot of changes, because Philly Hot Radio had gone through a lot of different changes and issues with hosts and stuff like that, and people not sort of taking the studio space seriously, not paying their dues and not taking care of the equipment and all that kind of stuff. So Eric made the decision to shut it all down,
Oh,
because he felt like people weren't putting in the work and putting in the effort that the radio station sort of deserves. So he's like, I'm going to close the studio space because you guys aren't respecting it. And for me, it didn't matter for me, because I was remote, remember? So I was all the way up in New York anyway. I never came to the studio because I didn't need to. So while he was going through all of those crazy things, I never missed a beat. I continued broadcasting. I continued doing my shows. I continued doing my thing, and, was perfectly fine. So he called me, and he's like, I appreciate your patience through all the things we're going through. I appreciate that you've been so professional and you've been so on point with everything, and I want to offer you the opportunity to have your own radio station. And he's like, have you ever thought about it? And I was like, what? And so we had the whole conversation. And of course I was like, yes, of course. Yes. I don't care what it takes. Yes, let's do it. Hung up the phone with him, called my mom. And I was like, Mom, you're never going to guess what just happened. And she's like, what? And she's like, I was like, I think I'm going to start my own radio station. And I don't remember what she said, but I know my mom's reactions to things, and she probably just squealed on the phone like she usually does. And, she was excited and she was on board. But yeah, the first person I called and told was my mom. And I was super excited.
how are you different today compared to the first day that it went on air?
Oh my God, my first show was garbage. It was so bad. Oh, it was so bad. Like, I don't even like talking about it. Like, I don't even have it on the archives, because I'm like, that's not even representative of me. Like, oh my Lord.
Hey, I have my first podcast still on my site.
I can't do it, man. It's awful. But how am I different today than I was back then? Besides the general knowledge, like I feel like when I first started the radio station, I had zero idea of anything behind it. Like I didn't know how to get the server up and running, how to fix things, how to, do this, that, and the third. Like I really didn't have the whole concept of WJMS sort of put together. And over the years, I've developed this love-hate relationship with the software that we use, as everybody knows. But I've become sort of well-versed in Sam Broadcaster. I've become well-versed in Centrovacast, in spatial technologies, in Live 365, and all of the different types of servers that you would need for an internet radio station. When before this technologically, I felt very, very overwhelmed. I was just like, I don't Like, I don't even know how to fix my show if there's an issue. You know, like I would reach out to Eric and be like, Eric, oh my God, like I can't get the audio to work. I can't get this, that, and the third to work. And now I'm that person that people call. You know, when they have issues with their show, they're like, Jaymie, something's going on. And I'm like, oh, did you do this, 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 and this?
Bang.
And they're like, it worked. Thanks. And I'm like, you're good. Have a great show, you know, and it's on to the next thing. But when I first started out, that didn't seem like a possibility for me. It just seemed like I felt like I was in over my head, you know, like, and in terms of the radio station itself as a whole, I know I started the radio station with an idea, but I didn't really know where it was going to go and how it was going to be. And now that I've been in this thing and I've been doing this thing now for almost 4 years, I have a very clear picture of where I want WJMS Radio to be and where I want it to go. And I know it now, you know, like I just had this like sort of like, oh, you know, it'd be cool if we did this. Now I'm like, no, 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 no. This is the goal. Like, this is where we're trying to go. This is what we're trying to do. When I first started, it was more or less like everything was just trial and error. Now it's like everything is very much business moves. Like, okay, is this going to work? Can we do this? What's the ROI? Like, I have a totally different mindset from when I started to where I am today. Partnered with the technological things that I was overwhelmed with at first. And just the understanding that my timeline and, you know, and, you know, it's not a race to the finish line. It's a voyage to the journey. It's like a journey to the destination. So you have to enjoy the ride while you can, because there's ups and there's downs and there's everything else in between. And I think now that I've been on this roller coaster for a couple of years, I've started to appreciate both for what they are, you know, whereas when I first started, it was more or less like, oh, woe is me. What am I doing? I can't figure this out. This is so hard. Like, why am I doing this? And now I'm like, I know exactly why I'm doing this. Like, okay, today's a bad day. But tomorrow will be better, you know? So it's this understanding that you gain after having years in the game, I guess, if you want to call it that. That just doesn't come when you're first starting a business. Like, you just have to go through those motions before you can understand. And I think I fully understand now. And I'm here, I'm standing firm in my belief and in my vision of the station, and I'm not moving. So
nice. And I just want to let everyone who's whether watching or listening live or listening or watching on the replay, how old were you when you started WJMS?
2015, 28, 27, 28.
27, 28, everybody.
Roughly.
There you go.
But I had been broadcasting and I had been on air in some capacity since I was 25-ish. So I had had like shows, and I had gone back to school, and I had done a couple of things with the radio station and stuff, like, or with the club and stuff that I was in. So I had been behind a switch or behind a board for, you know, a couple of years before that, you know, and then WJMS sort of took shape and took form, and here we are.
Well, that's a little background about yourself and what you've done in regards to the radio station or online station. Though I don't want to talk about this part, I want to talk about this. When you and Jaymie and I, we have somewhat regular conversations. A little while back, she dropped something on me, and it really shook me, and it still shakes me today. So let's talk about how you found out that you had lung cancer.
Yeah, that's for starters, it's permanently tethered. I watched Us really recently, so forgive my euphemisms here, but it's permanently connected and tethered to my engagement, unfortunately. So those two things have been undeniably connected. But to start at the beginning of the story, I had this cough in 2018 that just sort of developed out of the blue. You know, it kind of just felt like the regular cough that you get when you get a little head cold or whatever. So I didn't think much of it. And it only showed up when I would go to sleep at night. Like, it was fine during the day. And then when I would go to lay down at night, I would get this kind of wheezy cough that, like, it didn't last all night. It was only for a few minutes. And I would just cough, like, not that I was out of breath, but it was just like a like a wheeze type thing. So I was like, all right, whatever. And it stayed around for a little while. I didn't pay any attention to it. And then I got a cold on top of that. And I was like, oh, miserable. And, you know, the cold ran its course, but the cough stayed. So I went to the doctor, and I was like, okay, because I obviously, you know, you Google your symptoms, and they're like, when your cough stays and your cold goes away, it's bronchitis or whatever. So I was like, crap. So I was like, okay, let me go to the doctor. So I went to the doctor. Let me say the first doctor. Went to my primary care physician first, told her what was going on. She's like, okay, well, coughs and lungs and things like that and breathing tests are not my specialty. She's like, I'm going to refer you to a pulmonologist. I said, okay. So I went to the pulmonologist and told him what was going on. He gave me, like, if anybody's had a lung test before, they give you this breathing test. It's really hard, for the record. Like, you would think a breathing test, like, oh, just breathe. No, like, they're like, okay, take a deep breath in, breathe all your air out. And they're like, keep going, keep going. I'm like, there's nothing in here. Like, it's a really difficult test. And I took the lung test and I came back to him for the results. And, the results came back not conclusive for asthma or allergies. They was kind of like just sort of right in the middle. And he's like, well, we don't know what it is. It's not asthma. It's not allergies. You don't have any asthma, you've never had asthma and you've never had allergies at all. So, here's an inhaler and go get yourself some Allegra, because I also had a little bit of an itchy throat. And he's like, so it's probably just allergies. She's like, go get yourself an inhaler and some Allegra, and if it doesn't get any better in 2 weeks, he's like, come back and tell me, how things are going in 2 weeks. And I said, okay. So got the inhaler and I was using that. I had never used an inhaler before. I had to have somebody show me. So I used the inhaler and I was using the Allegra. Now the itchy throat went away with the Allegra and that was fine. But the inhaler wasn't helping. So I was like, all right, 2 weeks went by. I went back to the doctor and I said, okay, nothing. It didn't do anything. And he's like, okay, still no x-ray or anything. He gives me a prescription for a cough suppressant, sends me on my way. And I was like, all right. So I just let it ride for a little while. I figured because at the same time that all these doctor's appointments and this cough and everything was happening, I started getting back pain. But I also had just started, like, because I gained a little weight. I got in a relationship with Frank. I got a little comfortable. You get that comfortable relationship weight. And I was like, I gotta start working out again. So I had started working out and sort of getting back in shape and trying to do better. And I started getting into kickboxing really a lot. And it was just something that I thought was fun and it was good. So around the same time that all this stuff was happening, I was thinking that it was related to the working out because I'm like, with the kickboxing, I'm like, maybe my back is sore because, with kickboxing, you're up like this, your hands are above your face, you're punching and stuff like that. So I was like, maybe I'm tensing my muscles and stuff because of that. So I was going to see a chiropractor. He was telling me I had all these knots in my back and stuff like that, which fast forward ended up being tumors. And I was getting like shortness of breath. So the cough went away finally. After a while, the cough just went away. And then it transitioned into this shortness of breath situation where when I was going up the subway steps, I would be more winded than usual. Like when you go up the subway steps, a little bit of windedness is normal because, it's a quick exercise that you're doing. But I was like, on the platform, like, like really feeling like at any point in time I could, just pass out because I was getting shortness of breath. And then working out, this was the deciding factor for me. Now, mind you, all this time, Frank was telling me, Frank is my fiance for those folks who don't know or haven't, sort of been on this journey with me. Frank had been telling me, you should get a second opinion. You should get a second opinion. And I was like, I'm going to. The final straw for me, I'd already made the appointment for the second opinion after the working out thing and the subway steps, because it got a little bad. And I was like, okay, this is weird. Something is wrong. I'm like, when something's wrong with your body. So I got on the treadmill the one time in the gym with him, and I'm not the best. I'm not super in shape. I do kickboxing, yes, but I'm not super in shape. I have some areas that need some work, but I also know that I'm not super out of shape. So I know that I can get on a treadmill at any given time and run a mile and be fine. And I went and got on the treadmill the one day and I couldn't run a quarter of a mile before I couldn't breathe. And it wasn't one of those things where it's like, oh, just tough through it. Like the adrenaline will kick in, you'll be fine. It was like no, I'm not getting any oxygen. I'm not breathing type situation. I was like, I have to stop. And I was like frustrated. I'm like, this is wrong. Like something is not right. So finally the second opinion appointment came in. Now there's a little bit of a lapse in time. So I went to the first doctor and I finished with him and he gave me my cough suppressant in June. And I made my second appointment probably like October or so. Yeah, June-ish to October. And then because I was a new patient, it takes, when you're a new patient somewhere, your appointments are usually a little further out. So my appointment with them wasn't until December 5th, which was right after my vacation and my birthday trip. So I was like, okay, that's my second opinion appointment. So I let it ride until then. Now, mind you, before that, though, my back pain was killing me. And I was going to this chiropractor like once a week. And he was, doing massages and I was getting like, I had like back things for the chair, and I was sleeping with a lumbar pillow, and I was going to the chiropractor, and I had a little electrical thing that like you put the little pads on your back and on the areas, and you turn it on, it vibrates and like massages your muscles or whatever. I was doing the most. I never Googled all my symptoms together until I got the diagnosis. And I'm getting winded right now just from talking, but
wow. Well, face yourself.
So
face yourself.
yeah, so take a sip of water. But so I went to my second opinion appointment, and that's better. The first thing the doctor said was, "Have you had an X-ray?" And I said, "Nobody sent me for an X-ray." And he, well, NYU, everything's contained in one building. He's like, "Okay, you're going to go get an X-ray." He's like, "Go upstairs to the 8th floor, get a chest X-ray, come back down here and we'll talk about the results." And I said, "Okay." It's like, not thinking anything of it. I'm like, "All right, I'll go up and get an X-ray." So I went upstairs, I got the X-ray, and I sat back down. Hey, everybody in the chat. And I sat back down. I came into the office, and I'll never forget the look on his face. He was just like, "Are you feeling okay?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "I mean, I'm tired, but like, yeah, I'm fine." And he's like, "Your X-ray is not good." And I'm like, "What does that mean?" And he's like, "Your entire left lung is full of fluid."
Oh my God.
And I was like, "I'm sorry." And he's like, he showed me the X-ray, and I remember just being like, "What?" Like, it was the craziest thing. I think I have a picture of the X-ray. I'll try and find it while I'm talking to you guys. And it was just the craziest thing because I was like, how? He's like, he was like, "I don't know how you're functioning or how you've been functioning." He's like, "But I need to admit you to the hospital like right now." And I was like, "Oh, hold on, time out." Like, April Fools, right? Like, this is not serious, right? Like, are you kidding me? I was like, "Okay, I can't do that right now," because at the time that he wanted to admit me to the hospital, it was one of those things where it was just a really bad time. I know you're probably like, "This is your life." I didn't know that at the time. But it was a Wednesday. It was Wednesday, December 5th. And Frank was leaving on December 8th to go overseas to Korea because he's in the Army. So I needed to take him to the airport and say goodbye to him and all that. He's going to be gone for a year. My fiance, so I was like, and my cat was in the hospital at the same time. He went in on Wednesday too. So like, and that was a big thing because he was doing overnights and he had to get a catheter and all this crazy stuff. And it was like, my cat's in the hospital. My man's leaving. I was like, I had this big station event on that Saturday that night as well. And I was just like, I really can't go in the hospital right now. I was like, whatever this is, it's going to have to wait a couple days. I was like, it's going to have to make it through the weekend. And then I'll take care of it on the other side. I was like, I just need to get through these next couple days first. And then I can do that because I'm like, I have too many balls in the air right now to just stop and go into the hospital. So I postponed it for a couple days. And I dropped Frank off at the airport. I went to work on Sunday and I really wasn't feeling well on Sunday. I was really feeling it. And I called them because I had a PET scan. After I had the X-ray, the doctor's like, "Well, I'm going to send you for a PET scan because we don't know if this is fluid or a mass." So he's like, "The PET scan will tell us better." So I went and got a PET scan on that Friday and I didn't hear anything back from them. I freaked out. So I was like, all right. I called them on Sunday when I wasn't feeling well. And I'm like, "What's going on? Like, what's the deal with the PET scan? What are the results?" And they were like, "Yeah, you got a lot of fluid in your lungs. You need to get into the hospital ASAP." And I was like, "Okay." Excuse me. And the next morning, on Monday morning, I went to the hospital thinking, after having Googled my symptoms again, that I was going to just go in there. They were going to put a needle in my chest, syringe out the fluid. And then I'd be on, I was like, I'm going to go to the movies on Tuesday and everything's going to be fine. And, wasn't thinking anything of it. I'm like, it's probably just like pneumonia that I just kind of let get out of hand and they just got to take care of it. That's all. They'll put me on some antibiotics and the fluid will go away. And que sera, sera. So Monday I went to the hospital and 6 days later I left the hospital. They admitted me on Monday and were like, "Yeah, you're going to be here for at least a week." And I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" And they were like, "Yeah, we got to put a chest tube in. It's going to take at least 48 to 72 hours to drain all this fluid." I'm like, "What? Like, what do you, I don't understand. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me." I couldn't fathom that this is what was really happening. So long story short, they admitted me to the hospital. I had the chest tube in for the entire 6 days. They drained 2.5 liters of fluid out of my chest.
How much?
2.5 liters. I basically had a bottle of Pepsi on my chest, that I was carrying around for however many months doing kickboxing. I went hiking in the Grand Canyon in Las Vegas with 2.5 liters of fluid in my chest. I don't know. I have no idea how I did it. But this is the X-ray. Oh, wrong way. Where's the camera? So this is obviously my healthy, normal lung,
my God.
the black one. And that is over here is all the fluid in the other lung.
Okay, so
you can see
now is the fluid that mass?
the fluid is the white stuff. Yeah, all of that stuff is the white stuff. And that little black pocket right here is the only bit of air that's in my lung.
Holy smokes.
So I was literally working with about one lung the entire time. And if you can see my, hold on, it's hard to like do this backwards. So if you can see my windpipe, my windpipe in the center, there was so much fluid that the fluid was pushing my windpipe to the left, over toward, or to the right, over towards my other lung. So it was crazy. And I ended up, like I said, I ended up having the chest tube in. I was in the hospital for 6 days. I went into the hospital on December 10th and I went home on December 16th. On December 16th, they told me that the fluid that they pulled out of my chest tested positive for cancer. They don't know what kind of cancer or how far along it was, but they were like, it's very likely that I would have cancer. And then they discharged me from the hospital. And I went home with that for a couple of days and had to wait for about 4 days for me to get the results back from the biopsy that I had, which came back and told me that I have stage 4 adenocarcinoma, which is an ALK positive gene type of cancer in your lungs. And it's stage 4 because my lung is generating, or the cancer is generating fluid around my lungs. So since then I had, what did I have? One in the hospital, one before that. I had about 4 in-hospital lung drains before they put this catheter in. It's a very painful procedure. But I had one obviously in the hospital when I was there. Then before I even went and started taking my medicine, I had to freeze my eggs because they told me the prognosis. They were like, you're going to be on medication for presumably the rest of your life. And you can't get pregnant on this medication. After just getting engaged and just getting to the good part of everything in my life, they tell me that I can't get pregnant on medication. I'm 32. I don't have any kids yet. So I froze my eggs. I went through the process of freezing my eggs, which was a 2.5, almost 3 week grueling process of injections of hormones that I did myself. Took me 30 minutes the first night to do the injections because I've never had to give myself a shot. So I'm sitting there with my stuff. I'm just like, like, all right, 3, 2, 1. Like, and it was a bunch of them. So I finally, after the first day I could do it, but it was hard. After the first time it was fine, but it took me some time to get through that first shot. I laugh about it now because I was just like,
yeah, but you weren't laughing. So you weren't laughing then.
No, I was like almost to tears, like, oh my God, I can't give myself this shot. Like, and it was a big needle. The needle was like this big. It was crazy. I'm in there like a mad scientist. I gotta like squirt saline solution, like pull the saline solution into the syringe, put it into another. It was crazy. So I went through the process, but keep in mind, I had my lung drained in the hospital and then I didn't do anything about the cancer for a month. So that entire month, the fluid's building up, I'm losing. Yeah, it's all happening again. So I'm getting shortness of breath. My back is still hurting, the whole 9. So before I went under for the procedure, they had me do another lung drain. They pulled 1 liter of fluid out of my chest that time after having been sitting in there for a month because I wasn't taking medication or doing anything about the cancer because I couldn't while I was doing the fertility stuff. And then after the egg freezing procedure, the next day I started medication. So for those that don't know, I don't do radiation, thankfully yet. Hopefully I won't get to that point because I'll beat it before that. I take chemo pills. So I take Alecensa, which is an ALK inhibitor. And what it does is it stops my body, or it stops the genes that are mutating and making fluid from doing that. And it shrinks the tumors down. And it basically stops the cancer from spreading and stuff like that. So I take 4 pills in the morning. I take 4 pills at night. And the side effects are super manageable. I am so grateful and I'm so lucky for that because the side effects are like swelling in your legs and feet. You always have the digestion thing. So you have either a constipation or diarrhea situation if you don't take care of yourself. Nausea, dizziness, and drowsiness. So I'm always tired anyway. So the drowsiness, I don't know if I felt that or not yet. I don't sleep. Like I'm always on the go.
I know that.
So Side effects are very manageable, but I'm not losing my hair. I haven't had any real side effects, to be honest with you, at all, which is great. My body is responding well to the medication. I did do a PET scan and a CAT scan to make sure it wasn't anywhere else in my body. The CAT scan came back negative for anything in the brain. The PET scan came back pretty good. There was like some small spots down by my liver, but nothing in my liver or my kidneys or anything like that. None of my major organs. And there were a couple extra lymph nodes over, like up above the lung area, and in the closer to the right lung. So at this stage in the game, it's now been a couple of months. I've had my 6-week PET scan rescan, and the medication has totally gotten rid of the little one that was down by my liver. It's
Nice.
shrunk and gotten rid of
Nice.
everything else that was outlying, which is great. So all those lymph nodes have either shrunk or they're shrinking and going down to nothingness, which is great. So that means my body is really doing well on the medication, which is awesome. But in between that, I had to get a catheter in, a Pleurex catheter, because my lung just keeps generating fluid like nobody's business. So every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, there's a nurse that comes to my home. She's very sweet. And she drains my lung for me and puts the dressing back on. It's a waterproof dressing. So it's no pack. There's no like bag or anything attached to it. It's just a one-way valve in a tube, and it's wrapped up, sits underneath the dressing so I can shower and I can work out.
Yep.
And I can, do what I got to do. But yeah, I get my lung drained 3 times a week. This morning was today, because today is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. This morning, my drain was a little bit higher than I wanted it to be. But that's usually the case on Mondays because I go Saturday and Sunday without a drain. So it's a few more days in between drainage. So a little bit more fluid develops, of course. But I started off when I first got the catheter on February 8th. The doctor said 2 months. So April 8th, today is technically my 2-month mark of having the catheter.
Yeah.
And I was pushing really hard to get this thing out on the 2-month mark, and I'm not there yet. So that's why I'm a little bit sad. And I have a vacation coming up with my fiance in a couple of weeks. So I'm like, this thing got to get out. Like by May 1st, I need this thing gone because I'm trying to go on this cruise and I ain't trying to have this in there. But my number today was 250. So Friday it was 200. But like I said, it's an extra day in between. So sometimes the numbers are a little bit higher on Monday. So Wednesday is usually a better test. But that was a very long story. And
No, I wanted you to share every piece that you were comfortable sharing.
yeah,
Some conversation pieces. How are your parents handling this?
they're handling it. I think my attitude towards it helps
Right.
because, they know I'm a go-getter, like they know that if anybody can beat this, it's me. So they know that my don't quit attitude is a big part of how well they're handling it. Also, when you have something like this, you can't, they can react, they can have their emotions, they can be sad about it, but they don't always tell me because I'm already dealing with it. I can't be in charge of making or helping you fix your feelings when I'm going through it myself. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like I can't be
Absolutely.
in charge of coddling you and making sure that like you're okay,
Mhm.
when I'm the one who's dealing with it. So it's kind of more or less like they have their own support systems outside of me to kind of
Yep.
get them through the things that they're feeling so they don't have to burden me with what they're feeling. And the people in my support group have pep talks with them because, mom and dad want to ask the questions, like even this morning, they want to ask the questions. Well, what if this, and this happens? And I'm like, that's not an option. Like there is no plan B because we're doing plan A. I don't think about plan B because there isn't going to be one. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, they're dealing with it. They do the best that they can. It's hard to deal with when your child's dealing with something that, you can't fix and you didn't cause. Um, so they're doing the best they can. I will say my support team is absolutely amazing. And without them, I don't know that I could do this. Or I don't know that I could be as strong as I am. So I'm appreciative of everybody that's in the circle, everybody that I can talk to, everybody that I can just be like, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have those moments very often because I don't have time to live in that type of space. But when I do have those moments, it's nice to have, I can send up the bat signal and the family will come running. It's really nice to have that. So,
Just want to shout out, greetings, Stephen, Melvin on the Get Vocal platform, and a
yes.
voice from the past, Father Panur, has joined on Periscope. Also,
Oh,
Euphor site was on for a little bit, but yeah, Father Panur, thank you so much for joining in. How are the other siblings handling it?
Um, so like I said, everybody's handling it in their own way. They're all, I think everybody's, I want to say everyone's handling it pretty good. So at least that's what it seems like to me. But to be honest, like I keep everybody updated on a very regular basis with what's going on with me. And it's typically it's positive news. Like there haven't, knock on wood, been many back steps. So it's helpful that I'm progressing and moving forward. Like they're all very supportive. Um, they're all like, if you need me, call me, whatever you need, like you let me know, da 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 da. Like I will say the one thing about this diagnosis is that it has brought my family much closer together, in a weird way. I'm thankful for that because not that we were disjointed before, but we get so busy living our lives and doing our thing and just existing that sometimes you don't always keep in touch with family. You don't keep in touch with each other as much as you should. And this has brought us together in a way that I think we needed. Yeah, under really bad circumstances, but the family has joined together. We're talking to each other. We're praying for each other. Like we're supporting and we're supportive. And it's just, it feels a lot better. The energy around is a lot better. So,
I can certainly relate to that. In my earlier days, the relationship with my father wasn't good. And I've shared this story periodically that as about, 7, 8 years ago, he was diagnosed with, he had he had a stroke and he had to go in for heart surgery. And our relationship wasn't the greatest. It was okay, but it wasn't where it needed to be. And I will never forget the day that I was wheeling him on the gurney into his operation at 7:30 in the morning and waiting for 4.5 hours, wondering if he'd ever be alive again. And when the doctor came out, I'm just going, what is he going to say? And the doctor said, he's okay, he's going to be fine, or he's okay. And the first thing that I did is I got down on my knees and physically hugged the doctor's leg. And I asked if I could go see my dad. He said, sure. So I go in there, and what's the first thing my dad says? Oh, I can feel my toes now. I go, you scamp. This has been going on all this time, and you just, but that is, and I can relate. It's brought myself and him very, very, very close. So I'm just speaking, and I'm glad that this has happened, and you're going to live 1,000 years. And
I want to live 1,000 years. It sounds painful.
Okay. All right.
I just want to live I want to live a long, prosperous, fruitful life. I want to grow up and see my kids grow up. I want, all of those things. And I want to, die at a young, ripe, old age, of some natural cause. I don't want this to be the reason, like this can't be the reason,
Absolutely. Just want to shout out on the Patricia saying on the Get Vocal page, Jaymie,
Yes,
you can
Patricia.
definitely beat this. My sister fought off cancer twice. So if people want to jump in and share some words of encouragement to Jaymie, there are 2 seats open on the Get Vocal platform. I think probably one of the most challenging parts of this is your fiance.
Yeah, that sucks. Pardon my French.
No, it's okay.
Nothing I want more than
you could have said worse. That's all
yeah.
right.
There's nothing I want more than to come home to him and just curl up in his arms and just cry or feel whatever emotions I'm having for the day. But I have to settle for Skype for the time being. But you know what? It's my own decision. I told him not to come home and the reason I told him that is because I'm like, you know what? I have a rough couple of months to get through, 2-3 months, however many months to get through. But there's going to come a point where I feel perfectly fine. And I'm at the point where, aside from the catheter and the pain in the butt drainings every other day, I feel fine. I feel okay. So I'm like, I hate for you to cut your tour short because right now he's serving in Korea, for those folks that don't know, for a year. So I'm like, I'd hate for you to come here and cut your tour short for a year that I'm feeling perfectly fine. I was like, I'm going to need you later on, So I was like, go over there, finish your tour and come back to me with no strings attached because I'd hate for you to come over here. I'm feeling fine. And then 2 years later, we end up at war with some stupid country because of who, and they're like, oh, well, you didn't finish your tour in Korea. So you have one more tour that you have to do. We're going to send you over there. And now I got to worry about you at war, so I'm like, I'd rather you just finish because this should be his last tour, I think. So I'm like, I'd rather you just finish your tour because he's got 14 years in. He'll finish his tour. That'll put him at like 15, 16.
Wow.
And yeah, so he's going to retire from the Army, but I'm like, just finish your tour and come home to me with no strings attached, and I got really lucky too, because he's got 2-week leave. So in May, from the end of May into early June, I'm going to be out of communication. We're going on vacation and I'm just going to unplug and I'm going to enjoy myself. Cause for the last couple of months, I've been literally living hell. And I love nothing more than to just be on this cruise, feel the sunshine on my face, have a drink in my hand, and just relax and enjoy spending time with my fiance. But he also has to come back to go to school because he made Sergeant First Class. So that means, in June and July, he's got to come back to Virginia to go to school. So that means he'll be here in the summertime too. So I'm like, okay, all right. So I can come visit you on the weekends. All right. So I got him on the weekends in the summertime. I got him for 2 weeks in May to June, and then he'll go probably back in maybe end of, I don't know if it's June or July. Is it June, July? Whatever. He's leaving probably sometime in August or July, end of July, early August, and he'll be gone till maybe December, and then he'll be back, and that's it. So
that's it.
So it's not so bad. It's not so bad. There's a nice little break in between. So
right. Okay. Yeah. Just want to shout out listening through the Mixler app is some lady named Dr. Tachi.
Oh, hi. I told her the other day when I guested on her show, and she was like beside herself, like, you're going through all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, light work. little something. I'm okay.
So how did you and your fiance meet?
Through the internet.
Come on.
I met him online. I found the only good fish on Plenty of Fish. Crazy.
Come on.
Yep. Yeah, I met him online. Crazy. I never thought, and I wasn't even going to date him. Like, I really wasn't, because when we first went on our first date, he told me, obviously he's in the Army. He told me when we first went out that he was moving down south in like 6 months. So I was like, got it. Don't get attached. No problem. So I was like, okay, whatever. So I'm like, he's like, but I'll hang out. If you want to keep hanging out, we can still hang out and be friends. And then if you meet somebody, I'll back off. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Cause I genuinely enjoyed his company. So I was like, all right, cool. That's fine. Like, whatever. No big deal. And then all of a sudden, like, he was the only one I was seeing. I was the only one he was seeing. Neither of us were talking to anybody else. And then all of a sudden he was my boyfriend. And I was like, this dude friend zoned himself to snatch me up. How do you do that? Like, how was that even possible? You need to write a book. So yeah, he's very sneaky, and he sneaked himself into my life, and now I can't let him go. So,
and do share with people how he somewhat proposed to you online.
He did good. He did really good. I hate him for that because he put me on the spot. But we were planning to go to. I always go away on my birthday every year, so he had never been to Vegas. And I have, but I was like, you know what? I can go back to Vegas with you. So him, me, and my best friend Sade were planning to go to Vegas for my birthday from November 29th to like December 2nd or 3rd. I think December 3rd. And I expected him to propose in Vegas. So I'm online. I'm looking up all these like romantic things to do. Like, let's go ride the gondolas in the Venetian. I was like, oh, let's go look at the light show at the Mandarin. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
you were expecting the proposal.
I was, because we had talked about it, and I knew he was thinking about it. I didn't know when he was going to do it, but I knew he was thinking about it. So I had a little inkling, and I was like, he might propose. And I knew, because I knew he was leaving too. So I'm like, he's going to call dibs. Like, he's going to put a ring on it before he leaves. So like, I was like, I think he's going to propose, but I don't know when. So I was like, I'm just planning a whole bunch of like low key romantic stuff in Vegas so like we can get like a really cool moment out of it. Because I'm a control freak apparently. So
no comment.
I was intending on that happening in Vegas. So Wednesday during the afternoon, I'm at work and he texts me and he's like, hey, do you want to go to the movies tonight? And I'm like, it's Wednesday. Like, I have my show on Wednesday night. I can't go to the movies. Like, and he's like, oh yeah, that's right. Okay. And I was like, like, you know my schedule. I have my show on Wednesday. What are you doing? So I come in and I had a particularly bad day that day. I don't know why I had a bad day, but I remember he came and picked me up from the train station and drove me home. And I was like, I just had a bad day. And I was getting ready to go on air, and I was on air and everything was fine. And I was doing whatever. And then and I was having, and this is the other thing why I hate the software that I use. So Skype was, of course, acting up as it always is. And like, sometimes and for those folks that don't know how this works, I have a show that I host on Wednesday nights with my friend Tommy. He's down in Philadelphia. Tommy calls in on Skype, and the audio from Skype is ported into the computer and goes across to the server so everybody can hear us having the conversation. Now, Skype had been acting up for the last forever. And basically, if someone's already on phone with you on Skype and somebody calls in, you have to put that person on hold.
Yes.
Which means that they can't hear the conversation. So if this person's asking him a question or something, he can't hear it. So I was so aggravated because it was doing it that night. And he kept calling and he kept calling. So Frank calls and I'm like, and we're talking about some ridiculous story. We're like an artist. It was album review week. And it was like an artist name that we were messing up in an album that we didn't like. So we were talking and Frank calls in. And I'm like, oh, he must, because he was texting me heavy on the thing. I'm like, I can't text you and run the board and do all the things while I'm trying to have a show. So he calls and I don't answer the phone. I can't answer the phone right now, so I'm not going to answer the phone. So I don't answer the phone on him. So he calls back again and I'm like he really wants to voice his opinion tonight. Like, goodness gracious. Okay. So, then I missed the call because I was like, should I answer it? Should I not answer it? If I answer it, it's going to put Tommy on hold. He's in the middle of a sentence. So I was like, it was crazy. So finally he calls back a third time and I get him on the phone. And he did it on the phone. He proposed to me live on air. So he was like, yeah, I just want to know if, he chimed in on the subject real quick. And then he's like, yeah, I just want to know if Jaymie will open her desk drawer. And I was like,
yeah.
What? I was like, what'd you say? And he was like, open your desk drawer. And I was like, I was like, oh no. So I opened the desk drawer and right there in the desk drawer is the ring box. And I'm like, and he's like, can you open that box for me? And I was like, no, I don't want to. So I opened the box and the ring was in there. And he was like, I just wanted to ask you, if you would marry me and blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, I will. So he surprised me and he brown sugared me and proposed on air. If anybody's seen that movie, it's one of my favorite movies. He proposed on air and I was live on Facebook and on air at the same time. And I'm trying to like keep my radio composure, but also be like in the moment. And I'm like, oh my God, like, let's go to a break. And it was just kind of crazy, but he did a really good job. Like he did great.
Well, good stuff. I'm actually trying to find the link for the video. I can't find it.
I have it. I'll put it in the in the chat.
Put it in. And Dr. Tachi say it was lovely.
It was so cute. And I watched it back again, and then I was like, I put the show on a break so I could go because he was out in the car. I thought he was in the living room. And I'm like, get in here so I can see you. Like, what are you doing? And he was like, okay, I'll be right there. And I'm like, you're in the living room. Like, come in the second room. Like, what are you doing? Come to find out, he was actually outside in the car. So he came back in the house. And yeah, it was like, I should have known something was up too, because his entire family was watching. And I'm like, y'all don't usually watch the show on Wednesday nights because I usually broadcast on Facebook. And it was like his mom, his sister, his cousins. I'm like, we a little heavy on the Frank family side tonight, aren't we? Like, what's going on? But yeah, I didn't know. I didn't see that one coming. So he got me. He definitely got me.
I like him.
He's a good guy.
He's good. This journey that you're going through, what are the next steps health wise?
So my next big thing is really to get this catheter out, to be honest with you. So I found my hypothesis so far is that, or the hypothesis that I've discovered, I ventured my way back into the kickboxing gym a couple weeks ago and found that when I work out before I get a lung drain, my numbers were lower. So I was like, maybe the key to this thing is working out, because your lung has to work really hard when you're working out, when you're trying to get oxygen. So basically every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5:30 in the morning, I am at kickboxing.
Wow.
And then I follow that kickboxing class up by running a mile in the gym. So, and that was exciting for me because real quick, and I'll get back to the health question. Remember when I told you guys in the beginning, I couldn't run a quarter of a mile without having to stop. So I went to the gym the first time, and I was like, the first time after all this had happened, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to put a limit on myself or anything like that. I'm not going to put an expectation. I'm just going to run, and I'm going to see how far I can go before I can't get enough oxygen to continue. So I got on the treadmill and I ran a quarter mile, and I was like, still feeling good. All right. Okay. Got to the half mile part, and I was like, all right, this is good. I got to 3/4, and I was like, you just might do this today. Hit a whole mile. And I was like, I just smiled to myself, and I was like, I'm back, like I'm back to baseline so I can run my mile again. So I do my 1 hour kickboxing class. Now, keep in mind, yes, I know, like I take it easy. I stop when I need to stop. I slow down when I need to slow down. I do have a catheter in. So some of these moves are abbreviated or
Yeah.
modified. For example, the one move that they wanted us to do was take a 25-pound medicine ball and lift it up over our heads and throw it down. And like, so you squat down, you pick it up, lift it up over your head, and you throw it back down. And I was like, I'm going to need a modification for that one. That's going to pull my catheter out. So they just had me squat. So I know my limitations. I can't do a lot of push-ups because that's a strain on my chest and side area.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I know my body. I'm listening very well to my body now. So I do my kickboxing for an hour and then I go over and I run my mile and then I go home, take a shower, have some breakfast, and then I get my lung drained. And so far the numbers have come down. Like I said, when I first got the catheter on February 8th, I was pulling 400 milliliters of drain. And I am now pulling about 200 milliliters 2 months later. So I'm about halfway there. They got 4 weeks to get this thing out though. So I might need to bulk up these workouts a little more. I might need to do some off day workouts in between just to keep things moving along because I really need this catheter out before vacation. But next steps are, go ahead.
Are the doctors happy with your progress?
The doctors want me to stay active. The suggestion that they gave me is to be as active as possible. So I was like, say no more. Here we go. So they're like, the one nurse was like, kickboxing. I'm like, yeah. She's like kickboxing. I'm like, yeah. And she's like, are you sure? I'm like, I'm not taking hits. Like I'm punching a bag and kicking a bag. I'm not ready to take hits from people or anything. Like I don't fight people. I fight in a bag. It doesn't hit back. And she's like, oh, okay. She's like, I thought you were in there boxing with people. I was like, no, I'm not ready to start taking fists and stuff like that. I'm not there yet. Like, I'm okay. It's just kicking and punching in a bag and like a lot of cardio and planks and running the gym and stuff like that. So she was like, okay, that's fine. Just listen to your body and slow down when you need to and stop when you need to. And I'm like, I know, I got it. So I've been good. The doctors are happy with my progress. The 6-week check-in, my doctor was actually extremely impressed. He was like, this is a really good scan for 6 weeks. And I was like,
nice.
You're right. Darn right. It's a good scan for 6 weeks. Now watch. So the next steps are really to, they told me to continue the course. So continue taking my medication, and I'm trying alternative things too, as well. And changing my diet, stuff like that, drinking lots of water and trying to get as much sleep as I can when I can. But yeah, I'm just trying anything I can to get this thing to go away and get this fluid down and, really kick this thing by the end of the year. Like I want this thing gone and done with. Like I want this to just be like, okay, we're finished with that. On to the next thing. You know what I mean? Like this can't be lingering in my life forever. Like I have too much stuff to do to be stuck with this. So
nice. What's the next vision for next step for WJMS Radiio?
Well, I just got done being the keynote speaker at NYU on Saturday, which was really great. We had an event for the Black Girl Collective, and it was a room full of Black women, and it was a beautiful, beautiful thing. And like they were like NYU students and stuff like that, and a bunch of different ages. And I got to be the keynote speaker to all of them. And I delivered, I think I delivered a really good keynote speech. I mean, I was in it. So like, you don't know how you do until you watch yourself. I haven't watched the video yet. I will upload the 30-minute or 38-minute speech at some point in time. But yeah, I gave the speech. People laughed. They cried, literally. It was I think it was a really motivational sort of speech for everybody. But in terms of WJMS, we're rebranding, and not rebranding in a bad way. We're reimagining the reimagined. I think we've made some really, really good progress in the last 4 years. But it's time to kick it up a notch and really take WJMS and all of the shows to the next level. So my dad and I are working on a very good rebranding plan to really boost up the sort of revenue of the station, the visibility of the station, and the camaraderie and the cohesion of all the shows on the station to really make us a strong entity and a strong force. So our next focus is really that. I have a whole lot of merchandise to sell as well. So that's another thing I need to do. Getting more content, getting more interns, and really just kind of pushing everything forward and pushing everything up to the next level. I think we've established who we are, and now it's time to really show the world who we are. Now that we've stood firm in our vision and in our purpose and in our mission and our mottos and everything. So it's time now to broadcast that to everybody and let the world see what WJMS has to offer.
Wonderful. You didn't sound like that 6 years ago.
No, if you had told me 6 years ago that I'd own my own radio station, I would have probably passed out and been like, "You're crazy." Like,
yeah, but I've always pushed you.
Yeah, you have. You definitely have always pushed me.
Because I know you can get it done.
Yeah. So Patricia checks in. I don't have t-shirts. I have sweatshirts, but I do have t-shirts for my own personal cause, which I'll show at the end of the show. So if you're interested in, I coined a hashtag to go with the fight, fight for my life. And I have a GoFundMe that a friend of mine urged me to set up because the care is expensive.
I will share the link for the GoFundMe right now.
Okay. And that actually also for anybody who's just joining is another really good full description of everything that I've gone through leading up through this journey, as well as the link to the Facebook story where I kind of told it all on Facebook Live and let people ask questions and stuff like that, sort of similar to this, where I just sort of let everybody know what was going on. All of that information is in the GoFundMe, so you can always get more information there. But yeah, it's been an expensive journey and it's just starting. So,
this is why I wish you have lived in Canada instead of where you're living right now.
Wait, well, you guys got free healthcare up there, right?
Yeah, well, it's not as expensive what you're going through down there, believe me.
Well, like I said, I am grateful for the job that I have because they've been covering a big portion of most of my expenses for all of this. So my out of pocket has been very minimal, but I've hit like the fertility process was totally out of pocket, and that was about $7,000-8,000.
Wow!
You pay up front. They don't pay that like get a payment plan type situation. You pay that.
Yep. They don't.
So yeah, so that got done. I've gotten a couple of bills just for some of these procedures, like the catheter and stuff like that, and the hospital stay, which was $100,000. I was like, I'm sorry, what? I was talking to my Cigna rep and she's like, yeah, your hospital stay was $100,652. And I almost fell out of my chair. I was like, I'm sorry. You said $100,000 for 6 days? I was like, the TV wasn't even working for 2 of those days. Y'all got to cut that bill down. That's ridiculous. Like, come on now. Like, seriously? And my job insurance covered like 90, a whole heap of percent of it. Cause my out of pocket for that was only about like 600 or close to, actually it ended up being close to like $900 maybe or so out of all of that. So I'm like, out of $100,000, that's, I mean, $900 is still a lot of money, but like, that's really good, and then I've gotten a couple of one-off bills here and there for stuff that's happened in the office and stuff like that. And, the medication that I'm on is $10,000 a month. Yeah. So, and it's covered right now by my job. But if for some reason something happens to me and I can't work, I can't afford to live. Like, that's the crazy part when you think about it. Like, that's why the GoFundMe was set up, was because like, it's a rainy day fund, because it's like, if anything happens to me, I don't have a safety net. I can't even afford my medication to live on. So I set up the GoFundMe as a way, and it's all going into a savings account. It doesn't go into my bank account. But the GoFundMe savings is literally just so that I have an account that's set up so that if something happens to me and I can't work, at least I have a couple months of my medication covered. And the GoFundMe is set for $50,000, which would cover about 5 months of medication, which is sad. And a little bit of extra bills that have come in. You know what I mean? So it's insane. Like the cancer industry in this country is absolutely ridiculous. But I'm not even going to go into that because
you know what? Actually, a few things that I want to just mention here. First of all, Dr. Tati's saying, I pity the people that have no insurance.
Yeah. Like, oh my God, how do you survive? How do you live? Like, people that don't have insurance or don't have adequate insurance.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine if my copay was like $5,000 a month for this medication. I'd be like, well, y'all, I gave it a good run. Like, I can't afford that. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand how you do this to people. Like,
and she's saying, and she says, shame on America.
These are people's lives. Like $10,000 a month is ridiculous for pills. Like, these pills don't make me fly. They don't give me superpowers. They don't like keep me warm at night. Like, They don't do anything out of the ordinary. They are just pills. I'm like, there's no way that these should cost this much money. That is ridiculous.
I also am going to throw out a suggestion here, if you're up for it. There is a lady who's been on the platform, on the conversation, four different times. Her name is Serena Wills. And the first time she came on, her and another lady talked about their experiences with ovarian cancer and the costs. Now, unfortunately, Serena's mother passed away. And this other lady, she's experiencing dealing with cancer right now, with ovarian cancer and the treatments. And then just in the last 2 weeks, Serena was back on twice talking about taking care of our elders and just the cost of insurance. I would love to have you and her coming on and talk about your experiences with cancer.
Say the word. Let me know when.
I will do that. I will do that. Dr. Chachi saying that's the pharmaceutical industry fleecing people.
I know.
Patricia A is saying campaigns with videos often do better. I suggest that you do an occasional video update that can put you on social media if you choose.
I do every now and then. I do. It's I do videos like occasionally to let folks know what's going on with me and what's happening. So I don't know that they funnel through the GoFundMe for some reason. It's weird. Like GoFundMe's strange sometimes with what it lets you do and what it doesn't let you do. But yeah, I definitely try to update with pictures and video whenever I can. Mostly if you're active on my Facebook, you can keep a very, very good log of what's going on with me because I try to update semi-regularly with what's happening. So
hey, what's up, Tony? How you doing?
Hey, how you doing? How you doing?
Doing fine. Hey. What do you want to share about, my man?
Well, I just kind of was wondering. I know I was going to ask about the insurance thing, but you've already covered a lot about that because I know me being a type 1 diabetic and having all the health complications that I do. Yeah, it's ridiculous dealing with, especially insurance companies and the American government and all kinds of stuff. Just to get my insulin and get my diabetic needs and all the other stuff I deal with. But Jaymie, I just kind of wanted to know, have there been any situations in your life dealing with your health situations, dealing with people who can't and won't understand what you're dealing with?
Not yet. I'm still very early in this diagnosis.
Okay.
The most that I've gotten so far is people who are confused. Because the first thing people say to me when I tell them I have lung cancer is they're like, "Oh, but you don't smoke." And I'm like, "No, but I have lungs." That's really all you need to have lung cancer. Or they're like, "You don't look like you have lung cancer. You look really great." And I'm like, "Well, what should I look like? Should I have an oxygen tank? Or like, what would make this feel better for you?" Like it's really those kind of questions that not drive me crazy, but it just shows how much miseducation and misconceptions there are about cancers and different diseases that people have because they just assume that you should look a certain way when you have something. And for me, I try every day when it happens or whenever it does happen to educate those people and say, "No, I don't smoke. I never did smoke, but I do have lungs. And that's really the only criteria that you need to have lung cancer." So and, the same way that other people have diseases that you can't see, mental health issues, stuff like that. Like sometimes diseases don't manifest themselves physically and you may not look like you have something, but it doesn't mean you're not fighting a battle. So I try to educate people whenever I can on being more sensitive to what people are going through and realizing that like, just because, someone doesn't have an oxygen tank, trailing behind them or, I'm not crippled or anything like that, it doesn't mean that I'm not fighting something or that I'm not battling anything or that I'm not in pain or I'm not out of breath or whatever. Like you don't know what's going on inside somebody's body. So you have to be sensitive to that. But in terms of somebody not accepting or not really getting it, I haven't come across that yet. Like I said, I just got diagnosed in December, so I'm still fairly new in this whole diagnosis. I haven't had it for too long.
Yeah. Well, I can understand, thoroughly, like I said, I do have type 1 diabetes and several other problems. And I have come across a lot of small-minded people who are just like, anything from, he's a drug dealer because I pulled out needles and medicine to why do you have to do that in front of me? Or, well, what's the deal with that? Or just anything. And it sometimes it's humbling, but then again, sometimes it's demeaning, degrading, and belittling to the point you're just like, look, I want to live a life. I want to, I deserve to be here as much as you do, but this is what I have to deal with.
That to people. I really get torn between saying that to people when they're like, oh, but you don't smoke. And I'm like, would it make you feel better about me having this if I said I did? Like, what would that change for you if I said, yeah, I smoked for 12 years of my life? Like, would that make you feel better? Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's weird. Like, no, I don't smoke. Like, you know what I mean? Like, does it make you feel bad? Like that I never smoked? Like, I mean, yeah, it sucks, but I have lungs. Like, that's all the criteria you need. Same way men get breast cancer. You don't have to have, voluptuous breasts to get breast cancer. You just have to have the body part that it affects to get it. Yes, smoking is going to increase your chances of having it. Yes, doing things like that is going to increase your chances of having it, but it doesn't mean that people who don't do those things are automatically immune. So the one thing I will say is that me having this diagnosis has really kind of educated a lot of people. It's made a lot of people in my life sort of be like, I'm going to go to the hospital now. I'm going to go get checked out. There's this thing that's been nagging me for a long time that I haven't dealt with. Like, I'm going to go get it dealt with, or I'm going to quit smoking. So me having this and me just talking to people and me telling folks what's going on has really, I think, made a change, at least in the energy around me and the people around me. So where they're taking care of themselves better now and they're paying attention to themselves because they're like, Dad, like if Jaymie can get this, like, I gotta put these cigarettes down. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like I'm the like the beacon, yeah, it's weird. But I'm like, if this is a way to get people educated about taking care of themselves and paying attention to their bodies, then that's some good that's coming out of this.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Just want to shout out to Dr. Tachi and Bobby who are here in the Get Vocal room. Either one of you want to get on for the last few moments, there is a square open.
So, well, actually, I'm gonna have to hop off.
Okay.
If I don't, my diabetes is gonna say, nope, I'm gonna be mad at you, and then no, that's not gonna be a pretty situation. So,
all right.
But anyway, Jaymie, it was good meeting you, Dr. Vibe. I'll message you later. Jaymie, you just keep fighting, and I support you 100%. Because I can sympathize with you because of my current health situations and things, and I commend you highly.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Tony, and I support you too.
So thank you. Well, thank you.
Take care. So wonderful stuff. It's really good to have that sort of support and people who can relate on your journey per se. I want to ask this: what's been the toughest part?
Besides the diagnosis?
Yeah, well, outside the diagnosis, that's one tough part. I'm sure. What else is challenging?
There's a couple of things. And if you don't mind, I'm going to give you the few that are the most challenging things for me.
This is your conversation. You know that. You're like my little sister. Come on now.
The first challenge is forgetting that I have it. Like doing something and just going about normal life and being like, do, and then it's like, oh yeah, hey, by the way, you have cancer. Like, just in case you forgot, like there's little reminders that I get every now and then, like getting out of breath, doing things, or, I might do something or twist a certain way or rub against the catheter and be like, oh. Or like I wake up in the morning and I'm like, damn, like it's still here. Like this is still a thing. So that's one of the hard things, is just like going through life normally for a few and then remembering that this is a thing. The other tough part is feeling mortal. Like we all in a sense feel like can't be me, won't be me, never going to happen to me. Like got too much going on. I'm gonna live forever. I'm gonna die in an old age. I'm gonna do this, that, and the third. I have time. All these different things, like all those different thoughts all kind of came crashing, when the diagnosis happened. It's like, this could be the thing, like this could be that thing for me. Like this could be what ends it. It won't be, but there's always a possibility that it could be. And just knowing that I'm mortal and knowing that I'm not in control of that is hard. That's really, really hard, because it's like, it's just a reminder that time here is not, you're not here forever. You know, you're not here to stay here as long as you possibly can. You're here to stay here until you get to stay here. And you got to make the most of the time that you're on this planet while you're here. And having that news at 32 and realizing that there's a possibility that you may not make it as long as a K through 12 education. At age 32 is that hurts, because there's a lot of things you still want to do and you feel like you have the time to do them. And you realize that like there's a clock. It's almost like there's a clock that starts ticking in the back of your head that ticks down and just lets you know that your time is limited. And when it's your time, you're going to hear that alarm sound go off. And just not knowing when that alarm is going to go off, or being very aware that there is an alarm in the first place is kind of crappy. But those are some of the hardest things. And then I think it's just you know what's hard? You know what's really hard is watching the people that walk down the street smoking cigarettes that are healthy as a damn horse. Healthy as a horse. Not a care in the world. I know people in my life that do nothing but smoke cigarettes and drink coffee. Not a thing wrong with them. And I'm the one that has lung cancer. I've never smoked a cigarette. And I'm like, this really is such an unfair disease. It really is an unfair disease. You know, it doesn't discriminate. It picks whoever. And just, you know, you walk behind people walking down the street smoking a cigarette, and I'm just like, I just want to kick you into traffic. Like, you just get so angry. But like I said, I try not to live in those places. I try not to live in those dark places. I try to live in the light. I try to live in the positive. I try not to let those things filter into my brain. I don't have time for it. You know, I have too many things to do. I got a whole entire radio station to run, a wedding to plan, a full-time job on top of all of this to actually do, you know, and a life to live. So I try not to be in those areas where it's dark. I try to stay out of those areas. So.
Well, I appreciate your transparency from the heart, because it's not I don't think it's an easy thing to respond to what I asked you, but I thank you, and I know you would come through as you always do.
I like those questions. Those are hard questions, but I don't mind them.
Well, that's one of the things you like about me right from the beginning, according to what you told me.
You ask those questions. You get them.
Bobby is saying on the Get Vocal platform, love your vibe, Jaymie. Enjoy while you can. He says his mom passed away when he was 19, and then he is dealing with prostate cancer at age 55.
Ugh, Bobby, I'm sorry to hear that.
He says he's okay for now. And Dr. Tatch is saying, we are here for you, Jaymie.
Thank you, guys.
So,
yeah, and I'm okay. I'm okay too, Bobby. You know, I always look at my situation and think it could be worse. I could not be sitting here right now. I could be in a hospital getting radiation treatment. I could be losing my hair. I could be unable to afford my medication. I could not have the support system that I do. You know, I could not have the job that I do and not have adequate insurance. So there were small little nuggets of really awesome things in my life that I'm just like, I hold on to them together, and it's a really big ball of good luck and good fortune. And I just hold on to that as a beacon, because it's like, you could be way worse. You could be not able to do kickboxing. You know, I look at all these little milestones and these little things, like you could be able to not run a mile. You could not be able to run a mile. So I look at all those small things and I'm like, I'm grateful for the things I can do and the parts of my life that can get back to some form of normal for me. So
I think on that, we're going to wind it down. Okay. Because this is taking a lot of energy out of you.
I'm okay. I can keep going.
But I want, well, you know, one thing too, actually, from what you just shared over the last few moments, our good friend from Philly, Henri Morris, one of the first times I had him on the platform, he said something that has never left me, and I share with people: time never lost a fight.
Yeah, time is undefeated.
Yeah, when he said that, I had that boom moment, and I use it, so I share it with so many people, and people just go, wow, like it doesn't lose a fight. And I'm sure you're very in that mode right now.
You know what somebody said to me, or somebody said about me at the keynote speech at NYU, that I was like, I almost got up and was like, yes, yes, thank you. It was like, you know, Jaymie has cancer. Cancer doesn't have her. And I was like,
Wow.
Yes, thank you. And I was like, I should have put that on a daggone t-shirt. You know, like that sentence right there stuck with me because I was like, that's right. Like cancer doesn't have me, you know? So I really loved that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Any final words you have for our audience?
Listen to your body, people. Listen to your body. If your body is telling you something or you realize something is not right, go get checked out. Go be an advocate for yourself. If doctors are not telling you what you want to hear, keep trying till you get what you need. And just pay attention to what's going on. Cause like I always tell people, you need to either sit down or you get sat down, and you don't want to get sat down. And I got sat down. So if you have the opportunity to not get sat down, then, pay attention and really pay attention to what your body is telling you, because it's going to help. And it's gonna give you the warning signs well before modern science will. So
here we go. Anyone have?
And like my station, follow me on social media and all that kind of stuff. Share it with your friends. That'd be great. Appreciate it. Cool.
Well, I put the link for WJMS Radio in the comments section, and also I put the GoFundMe link again in the comments section.
Let me get that YouTube video for you guys too. The proposal, if anybody wants to see it, I gotta find it. I can find it real quick.
Well,
I know the title.
I would hope so. If you're ever having a challenging day, you just need to put that up. Just need to watch.
I'm never having a challenging day. I just call him. I call him rather. It's easier that way. I miss him though. Let me see. All right. I think I got it right here. It's in my videos, which makes it a lot easier to find. So I'm glad I put it there. I guess I just copy this. Yeah, I guess that works.
In the comments. I can't wait to get you and Serena and hopefully another friends talking about battling cancer. I think that would be an epic conversation.
I'm all for it. Let me know when that's happening.
And Monday nights is actually the best for you. Monday or Tuesday evenings?
Monday or Tuesday until June.
No, don't worry. It'll happen before that.
Okay, yeah. Because then my schedule changes to Monday through Friday.
Yeah, I will definitely make that happen. Well, Jams, you're on fire.
Yeah, I'm living. I'm doing my best.
You're doing more than that. You're slaying. You're slaying. You're slaying. That's what you're doing.
Thank you, Melvin. I appreciate that.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. Well, I like to say I didn't know what would happen 6 years ago, but I'm enjoying it.
It's been a ride. It has been a ride.
You ain't kidding. I've seen. I knew you when.
You knew me before WJMS existed. That is pretty special.
Yes. Pretty special. Well, I knew you before your fiance met you.
You did. You've known me longer than my fiance. I'll let him know he's got competition or something. Like, I'm kidding.
Manners now. Come on now, manners.
I wouldn't do that.
No, I know that. But I hope I get the honor and pleasure of meeting the gentleman that has stole your heart.
Listen, I'd like to meet you first. You've been catfishing me for 6 years, man. Like, how you gonna try and meet him?
Go on with this now, right? You're gonna go on with this.
Yes, because on every catfish episode, it's like we've been talking online for like 5-6 years. I've never seen him in person. I don't know what he really looks like. And then they see him in person, and the person is crazy.
Hey, all right. So Juice and I have to come down. Juice and I have to come down to New York.
Yes.
And you're one of the few reasons we'd visit your country.
I know. You don't have to stay long. I don't want to stay long myself. So that's fine. It doesn't have to be a long stay.
And one other thing, when can people hear you on WJMS Radio?
All the time, I feel like. But for sure on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. and Saturdays at 12 p.m., all Eastern Standard Time. So you can also check our website. There's content from all of the shows on each of the show pages. You can go and listen to past episodes. So you can stream some of the old episodes of my shows. I'm also on Facebook a lot. So if you're interested in connecting with me that way, I also share a lot of my journey and what I'm going through and stuff like that on Facebook. So you can also connect with me there. I don't mind. Like it's quite all right. So feel free to connect with me there. And yeah, I'm always around. And I try to pop on Dr. Vibe show whenever he'll let me come on. So
you need to relax on that. You really, you
Yep.
can come on whenever. Well, you know what? Actually, oh, you're not good on Wednesday evenings. One day, I'd love to get you on a Wednesday evening with Dr. Tachi and Leah.
I can do a Wednesday evening. You just got to let me know in advance, and I'll pre-record my show on Wednesday with Tommy, and then I can come on the show with you.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Dr. Tachi, did you hear that? So,
And I love coming on air with Tachi. Me and her have such great chemistry. Like I was on Mediascope, or I'm sorry, TV channeling with her and Kevin, and it was so much fun. Like we had a blast. My family were like, "This was like watching, TMZ." I'm like, "No, but better." So it was great. I'm always down.
well, definitely. So I definitely will get that up to Tachi and Leah. And for those people on Wednesday nights, certainly, well, Wednesday, mentioning Dr. Tachi, she does her great thing on Mediascope, on Periscope, Facebook Live, and WJMS Radio live on Wednesday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Then at 9 p.m., Dr. Tachi and Leah Miller come on and they do Black Lady Magic on this platform. And a big thing, and it was officially announced today, Leah Miller is now the content manager at Urban Intellectuals.
Ooh, okay.
So she officially did a video for it today, so it's official. So I know we'll get her to talk a little bit more about that when she comes on Wednesday, which leads to upcoming conversation this Wednesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Dr. Tachi, Leah, and Serena Wills will be having a sorority talk because they are all sorors. So they're going to have a sorority talk. And then on Thursday evening at 9 p.m., I'm hosting on another platform, another organization on Get Vocal, Meta Masculinity. They have a series of conversations called M&M Explorers, and I'm hosting a conversation with a gentleman named Robert Leung. And Robert Leung has been a coach for the program lead of Men and Masculinity. His name is Lee Rosen. And what they're going to do is they're going to read each other's eulogy.
Yikes. That's deep. That's a little heavy.
So Robert came up with this idea and I went, wow. I just said, so they're going to, and the whole thing about expressing your love for someone before it's too late.
Yeah. Always say, give everybody the roses while they can still smell them.
Exactly. So that's 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday evening. I'm just going to end it off really quick here. Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of epic conversations, the place of epic conversations. If you want to reach out to me, the best place is just go to my website. I can give you all the different platforms, but why waste your time? Just go to the website. I'm going to put I'll put the link here. I'll put the link here in the chat section, and that will give you everything you need to know about the Dr. Vibe show, the home of epic conversations. I'd like to just shout out everyone who came on live. Dr. Tachi, we had Melvin, we had Stephen, J-Mog, Brad, Bobby, Tachi, I said Tachi already, Patricia been on since the beginning. Also, at the beginning, we also had Dre on the Monica Diamond, also stopped by for a bit. On the Periscope side, we had Father Panor, we had U4 Site, and let me just see. Actually, someone Shulik CISSP. So that's a pretty serious website, Shulik. And also Munch, whose first day on Periscope came in and stopped by for a little bit. So as always, I like to say 4 last things. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Next up, sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions. And finally, did I mention Tony? I think I mentioned Tony. I don't know if I did or not. So Tony, yes, you are on too. Finally, aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. God bless, peace to all, keep the faith and walk good, and take care of your health. It's the only health you've got.
Yep.
God bless. Bye-bye.